I knew something was wrong the moment I sat up in bed. My desk looked empty. Not messy, not moved around. Empty. My laptop, my only laptop, was gone. I stared at the spot where it always sat, charger neatly wrapped beside it, and felt my stomach drop. For a second, I convinced myself I was just half asleep, that maybe I'd left it in the living room, or taken it somewhere, and forgotten. But deep down, I already knew. I walked out of my room and into the kitchen, heart pounding. My mom was at the table drinking coffee, scrolling on her phone like it was any other morning. "Where's my laptop?" I asked. She didn't look up. I sold it. Just like that. No pause. No warning. No explanation first. "You... what?" I said. She finally glanced at me, annoyed. "I sold it. We needed the money." "For what?" I asked, my voice already shaking. "That's not your concern," she replied. "You're always on that thing anyway. It was a distraction. A distraction." I stood there, trying to process how casually she'd just erased the one thing I needed for school. "I use it for my classes," I said. "All my assignments are online." She waved her hand. "You'll figure it out. You're smart." That sentence hit harder than she realized. Smart enough to adapt. Smart enough to struggle quietly. Smart enough to not complain. I went back to my room, hoping, stupidly, that maybe she was exaggerating, that it was hidden somewhere. It wasn't. The charger was gone too. That was when I noticed something else. The door to my room wouldn't open all the way anymore. I pushed harder. Locked. From the outside. I stood there, hand on the handle, my chest tightening as the realization sank in. She hadn't just sold my laptop. She'd decided I didn't need my space either. And that was only the beginning. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the locked door like it might explain itself if I waited long enough. My room wasn't just where I slept. It was where I studied, where I kept my notes taped to the wall, where I stayed up late finishing assignments when everyone else was watching TV. It was the only place in the house that felt even remotely like mine. And now I couldn't get in. I went back to the kitchen, my heart pounding harder with every step. "Why is my door locked?" I asked. My mom sighed like I was interrupting something important. "Because you'll be sleeping on the couch for a while." "For a while," I repeated. "Why?" She finally put her phone down. "Your uncle's staying over. He needs a real bed." I stared at her. "For how long?" She shrugged. "However long it takes." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that none of this made sense, that she couldn't just sell my laptop and take my room without warning and expect everything to be fine. But I already knew how that conversation would end, so I carried what little I could grab, my backpack, a notebook, a hoodie, into the living room, and dropped it next to the couch. That night, I tried to study with my phone balanced on my knee, squinting at tiny text while the TV blared in the background. Every few minutes someone walked through, stepped over me, asked me to move. "Can you scoot?" "I need the charger." "Turn that down." By midnight, my eyes burned and my head throbbed. I hadn't finished anything. I hadn't even started properly. I curled up on the couch, listening to the house settle around me, feeling like a guest who'd overstayed their welcome in their own home. The next morning was worse. I woke up stiff and tired, my notes wrinkled, my phone battery nearly dead. My mom stepped over me on her way to the kitchen. "You're still sleeping?" she said sharply. "No wonder you're always behind." I bit my tongue. Days blurred together like that. School during the day, couch at night. No quiet, no privacy, no laptop. Just me trying to keep up with deadlines using borrowed computers at the library and whatever time slots I could squeeze in between classes and work. Every time I came home, my bedroom door was still locked. Every time I asked when I'd get my room back, the answer changed. "Soon." Stop asking. "Why are you so obsessed with that room?" I stopped asking. Instead, I adjusted. I learned which corners of the library had outlets. I learned how long my phone could survive before overheating from too many tabs open. I learned to write essays in short bursts before someone needed the couch. What I didn't learn was how to rest. 2 weeks passed like that. 2 weeks of sleeping badly, 2 weeks of studying in pieces, 2 weeks of pretending I was fine. Then one afternoon, my mom cornered me in the kitchen. "Your teacher emailed," she said, arms crossed. "She says your grades are slipping." I looked at her, stunned. "They're what?" I asked. "Don't play dumb," she snapped. "You were doing fine, and now suddenly you're falling behind. What's going on with you?" I opened my mouth, then closed it again, because the list of answers felt too long, and I knew she didn't want any of them. "You need to take responsibility," she continued. "College doesn't wait for excuses." I stared at the floor, my chest tight. Excuses. Like not having a laptop, like not having a room, like trying to learn while sleeping on a couch. I finally looked up at her. "Do you really not see it?" She frowned. "See what?" And in that moment, I realized something that hurt more than anything else. She wasn't confused. She was selective. She remembered selling my laptop. She remembered locking my door. She just didn't connect those choices to my grades, because that would mean acknowledging she caused the problem. And that was something she had no intention of doing. I didn't give up. That was the part no one saw. From the outside, it probably looked like I'd just stopped caring, like I was distracted, lazy, slipping for no real reason. But inside, I was exhausted from trying to make something impossible work. Every morning, I left the house early with my backpack heavier than it had ever been, not with books, but with everything I might need just in case. Extra notebooks, printed assignments, a phone charger, a half-dead pen that I kept meaning to replace. Without my laptop, nothing was simple. Teachers posted lectures online, homework portals timed out. Group projects moved forward without me because I couldn't stay logged in long enough on my phone to contribute properly. I started missing small details first. Deadlines that changed overnight. Announcements posted after class. Small things turned into bigger ones. I spent as much time in the library as I could. The problem was, so did everyone else. Computers were always taken when I finally got one. I rushed like someone stealing time, typing as fast as my fingers would allow, terrified the session would end before I finished. Some days, it did. I started staying after school just to catch up, watching the sun go down through the library windows while my friends packed up and left. They asked why I never hung out anymore. I told them I was busy. I didn't tell them I didn't have a room to go back to. At home, the couch became my entire world. I ate there, studied there, slept there. Everything I owned lived in a small pile beside it, constantly being moved or stepped over. Every night, the TV stayed on late. Someone always needed the space. Someone always told me to move. "Can you shift?" "I need to sit." "You're always in the way." I learned to fold myself smaller. My body started paying the price. Headaches, back pain, a constant fog that made it hard to concentrate even when I finally had a quiet moment. I drank more coffee than I ever had before, just to keep my eyes open. Then came the grades. A quiz I'd studied for but couldn't submit in time. An essay marked incomplete because the file uploaded wrong from my phone. A group assignment where my name barely appeared because I couldn't join the video calls. The numbers next to my name started dropping. When my teacher pulled me aside after class, her voice was careful. "This isn't like you," she said. "Is everything okay at home?" The question caught me off guard. I almost said yes. That was my instinct. Protect the house. Protect my mom. Protect the story that everything was fine. But the words stuck in my throat. "I'm working on it," I said instead. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe me. At home, my mom noticed the change too, but not in the way I needed. She noticed my mood, my tired face, the way I snapped when she criticized me. "You're always exhausted," she said one night. "What are you even doing all day?" I wanted to laugh. "I'm trying to keep up," I said quietly. With what? She asked. You don't even have that many classes. That was when I understood something important. Effort doesn't matter when the person judging you never sees it. 2 weeks after my laptop disappeared, my grades had fallen enough to be noticeable. Emails started coming in, automated warnings, academic reminders written in polite, impersonal language. My mom waved one of them in my face. Explain this, she demanded. You were doing fine before. I looked at the email, then at the couch, then at the locked bedroom door down the hall. I told you, I said. I don't have my laptop. I don't have my room. She frowned like I was speaking nonsense. That's not an excuse. That was when the truth finally clicked into place. She didn't want me to succeed right now. Because if I did, she'd have to admit I was doing it despite her, not because of her. And that was something she wasn't ready to face. 2 weeks after my laptop disappeared, my mom decided it was time to be concerned. Not when I started sleeping on the couch. Not when I spent every evening hunched over my phone trying to read assignments. Not when I stopped going out with friends or came home exhausted every night. She became concerned when the school put it in writing. She stood in the kitchen holding her phone, eyebrows pulled together like she was solving a mystery. I don't understand this, she said. Your grades were fine, and now they're suddenly falling. Suddenly, I was sitting at the edge of the couch, my backpack at my feet, notes spilling out because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. The TV was off for once, and the silence made the moment feel heavier. They're not suddenly falling, I said. They've been slipping since you sold my laptop. She looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. That has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with it, I replied. She shook her head. Plenty of kids don't have laptops. They still do fine. Plenty of kids still have a room, I said quietly. Her jaw tightened. Don't start. I'm not starting, I said. I'm answering your question. She crossed her arms. You're always full of excuses. First it's the laptop, then it's the couch. What's next? I felt something in me snap. Not into anger, but into clarity. This isn't an excuse, I said. It's a cause. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. So you expect me to believe your grades dropped because you had to sleep on the couch for a bit? For 2 weeks, I corrected. With no laptop, no desk, no quiet. She waved her hand. You're being dramatic. That word again. I stood up slowly, my hands shaking just enough that I noticed. You took away the tools I need to do my work, I said. And now you're surprised I'm struggling. She stared at me, annoyed. I did what I had to do. We needed money. For what? I asked. You never told me. That's not the point, she snapped. The point is, your responsibility is school, and you're dropping the ball. I looked at her, really looked at her, and understood something I hadn't wanted to admit before. She wasn't confused. She wasn't forgetting. She was separating her actions from their consequences on purpose. You can't keep expecting the same results after changing everything, I said. You can't take my laptop, lock my room, make me sleep on the couch, and then ask why I'm not doing as well. She scoffed. Life doesn't stop just because things get uncomfortable. I know, I said. That's why I'm still trying. That made her pause, just for a second. Then she hardened again. Trying isn't enough. You need to focus. I can't focus without space, I said. Or equipment. She pointed down the hall. Your room will be back when I say so. And my laptop? I asked. She hesitated. We'll see. That answer told me everything. 2 weeks had been enough time for her to notice the problem, but not enough for her to feel responsible for it. She wanted improvement without effort, success without support, results without accountability. I sat back down on the couch, feeling drained in a way sleep couldn't fix. Later that night, as I tried to finish an assignment on my phone, I realized something important. She wasn't asking why my grades were falling because she cared. She was asking because the decline reflected poorly on her. And that meant this wasn't just about school anymore. It was about control. I stopped trying to soften it after that. For 2 weeks. I'd chosen my words carefully, hoping if I explained things the right way, my mom would finally hear me. But sitting there on the couch, laptop gone, room locked, grades slipping, I realized something painful. She wasn't misunderstanding me. She just didn't want to hear the answer. The next morning, she brought it up again while I was packing my bag for school. "You need to do better," she said. "I don't know what happened to your motivation." That was it. "I'll tell you exactly what happened," I said. She looked surprised by my tone. Calm, steady, not apologetic. "You sold my laptop," I continued. "The one thing I needed to keep up with online classes. Then you locked my bedroom and told me to sleep on the couch. I lost my desk, my quiet space, my schedule. That's what happened." She crossed her arms immediately. "I told you. That's not an excuse." "It's not an excuse," I said. "It's the explanation you keep asking for." She scoffed. "You're blaming me for your grades now?" "I'm connecting cause and effect," I replied. "You made it harder for me to succeed, then got mad when it worked." Her eyes narrowed. "So what? I'm just a terrible mother now?" I didn't take the bait. "I'm saying you prioritize something else over my education," I said. "And now you don't want to admit it." She laughed bitterly. "You're acting like I did this to hurt you." "I don't think you cared either way," I said quietly. "That's the problem." The kitchen went silent. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd stop and think. Instead, she shook her head. "You're ungrateful. After everything I do for you." There it was, the shield she always hid behind. "I'm not ungrateful," I said. "I'm just done pretending this isn't affecting me." She stepped closer. "You think life is supposed to be comfortable?" "No," I replied. "But I think school is supposed to be possible." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Her face shifted, not into guilt, but irritation. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. "No," I answered. "I'm making it honest." That's when she turned away, conversation over in her mind. "Go to school," she said dismissively. "We'll talk later." But later never came. Instead, she started acting like the conversation hadn't happened, like the laptop wasn't gone, like the couch was normal, like my grades were a personal flaw instead of a predictable outcome. I stopped engaging. I stopped defending myself. I started documenting. I emailed my teachers explaining I didn't currently have reliable access to a computer or private study space. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't blame her by name. I just stated facts. Some replied with extensions. Some offered school resources. One asked if I was safe at home. That question stayed with me. At dinner that night, my mom noticed the change. "You've been distant," she said. "I've been realistic," I replied. She didn't like that answer. "You think you're smarter than me now?" she snapped. "No," I said. "I just stopped caring your decisions for you." She went quiet, lips pressed tight. I realized then why she didn't want to hear the truth. Because once spoken, it meant the problem wasn't my grades. It was her choices. And that was something she couldn't ground, punish, or sell away. I thought I could keep it contained. I really did. I believed if I just worked harder, stayed quieter, and stopped reacting, I could survive the rest of the semester without anyone else getting involved. But schools notice patterns, even when families pretend nothing is wrong. It started with emails. One teacher asked why I hadn't submitted a project I'd already talked about in class. Another pointed out that my participation had dropped sharply. A third noted that I'd gone from early submissions to last-minute uploads, when I managed to upload it all. Then my guidance counselor asked me to come in. I sat across from her in a small office that smelled like old books and coffee, hands folded tightly in my lap. She didn't accuse. She didn't lecture. She just looked at me and said, "This doesn't match your record." That sentence almost broke me. "I don't have my laptop anymore," I said finally. She raised her eyebrows slightly. Do you have access to another one at home? No, I replied. I don't have a room either. That made her pause. She leaned forward. Can you explain that? So I did. Not emotionally, not dramatically, just facts. My mom sold my laptop. My bedroom door was locked. I'd been sleeping on the couch for weeks. I was trying to keep up using library computers and my phone. The counselor didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. Thank you for telling me. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. Within a day, accommodations were put in place. Temporary laptop access, extended deadlines, permission to use the computer lab after hours. Support I should have had from the beginning, but it didn't stay inside the school. My mom got a call. I wasn't there when it happened, but I could tell the moment I walked in the door that something had changed. The house felt tight, sharp, like the air before an argument. She was waiting for me. So, she said, holding her phone. You told your school our business. I told them why I'm struggling, I replied. She laughed incredulously. You made it sound like I'm abusing you. I didn't make it sound like anything, I said. I told the truth. Her face hardened. You humiliated me. I stayed calm. They asked why my grades were falling. You could have handled that privately, she snapped. I tried, I said. For 2 weeks. She paced the room, clearly angry, not scared, not concerned, angry. Now they're watching me, asking questions. I said nothing, because that was the point. When teachers notice, the story stops being about attitude and starts being about environment, and that's dangerous for someone who wants control without accountability. That night, she unlocked my bedroom door. No apology, no conversation. Just the click of the lock. You can have the room back, she said coldly, but don't make me regret it. I stood there, stunned. 2 weeks of sleeping on the couch, 2 weeks of pretending nothing was wrong. And suddenly, the solution appeared. Not because she understood, but because someone else was watching. The laptop didn't come back. You can use the school one, she said dismissively. I nodded. Because I wasn't asking anymore. I was observing. The next day, my counselor checked in again. Let me know if anything changes, she said. You deserve stability. That word, deserve, felt foreign and powerful. At home, my mom acted like the problem was solved, like unlocking the door erased everything that came before it. But something had shifted. She no longer asked why my grades were falling. She asked how much the school knew. And that told me everything. Getting my room back didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the weeks on the couch, the missed assignments, or the constant knot in my stomach every time I opened my grades. It just reminded me how easily everything could be taken away, and how quickly it was returned only when someone else noticed. I stepped into my room that night and looked around. Nothing had changed. Same walls, same desk, same quiet. But it felt different now, like a place I was borrowing instead of something that belonged to me. The lock on the door suddenly felt symbolic in a way I couldn't ignore. If it could be locked once, it could be locked again. I sat at my desk and opened the school-issued laptop. The screen glowed softly, familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. I started working, slowly at first, relearning how to focus without flinching at every sound in the house. I caught up where I could. Some grades improved, others stayed low. Recovery wasn't instant, no matter how much my mom seemed to expect it to be. One evening, she stood in my doorway and watched me work. You seem more focused now, she said. I didn't look up. I have space again. She nodded, like that explained everything, then added, you just needed structure. That was when I realized she'd never admit what really happened. Not to me, not to herself. To her, I hadn't been struggling because she took away my tools. I'd been struggling because I wasn't disciplined enough, because I needed a lesson, and once the lesson was learned, she could move on without guilt. At school, things were different. My counselor checked in regularly. Teachers were patient, but not pitying. They treated me like someone who had been working uphill, not someone who'd suddenly lost motivation. One teacher said something that stuck with me. "Effort doesn't disappear overnight," she said. "Opportunity does." That sentence explained everything my mom refused to see. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't unfocused. I wasn't suddenly careless. I'd been trying to succeed with one hand tied behind my back. As the semester ended, my grades stabilized. Not perfect, but honest, reflective of what I'd been given to work with. My mom never mentioned the laptop again. She never apologized for selling it, never asked how I managed without it, never acknowledged that locking my room and pushing me onto the couch had consequences. But I stopped needing her acknowledgement. I started planning quietly, saving money where I could, researching options, talking to my counselor about housing and scholarships, building a future that didn't rely on someone else deciding whether I deserved support. One night, as I lay in bed, my bed, behind a door that was unlocked but no longer trusted, I thought back to the question that started it all. Why are your grades suddenly falling? The answer was simple now. They weren't falling because I didn't care. They fell because someone in power decided my education was optional. And the moment I understood that, I stopped blaming myself. I didn't need her to change. I didn't need her to admit fault. I needed to leave. And when I eventually did, I took something with me she could never sell or lock away again. The truth that I was never lazy. I was just surviving in a place that made success harder than it ever needed to be.